Hello, all you drama enthusiasts. Welcome to the meeting. This is Angie's Drama Room. I am your meeting host, Angie. Today, let's discuss the controversy that's going on with NewJeans. Let's say this is going to be an unbiased point of view. I have no viewpoints of who's right or wrong. I'm not going to bash anybody else, but I'm just going to give you some insight that I have witnessed as I was watching all that was unfolding since last year. We know, so before I go into that, if you don't mind hitting that subscription button, I really appreciate everyone who has subscribed to my channel. And I try not to be too controversial when I talk about certain things, but mostly I do talk about is dramas, Korean dramas, Chinese dramas, and I try to stay off of reality dramas. But again, I'll just go ahead and give you my thoughts and what I have witnessed and I saw what was going on. And again, this is my unbiased opinion. I would say that how I started with Korean dramas, was because of BTS, which was K-pop. I came in, I think they're either the end of their second or going into their third year. That's when I became in. I do not call myself a army or anything like that, but I do appreciate them. I do appreciate their work ethics. I appreciate how they had to struggle to get where they are. So I just don't go into the whole idol concept. So, but again, there you are. I could care less that HYBE has all this money. He's a billionaire CEO. I mean, that's whether he falls or not, BTS is still going to be there. But that's my thing. So I'm not here to defend HYBE, and I'm not here. It's just my unbiased opinion. So let's start. There was several things I wasn't quite sure of, and one of the things was dispatch video. And I'm like, well, why was this an issue? And I didn't understand what it was. I said, well, is it something with the video? Was it something, and so I was listening to another YouTuber commentator, and he happened to mention about that video and what that video was representing. And so I was like, oh, okay. Basically, if you did not know, that video that Dispatch released was a leaked video, supposedly by Source Music. Source Music, what is Source Music? Source Music was the training ground for NewJeans, before NewJeans became NewJeans. So, and I guess that was the issue. It wasn't necessarily the imagery in the video, it was just the fact that they leaked their trainee video, and that's what the issue was. So before NewJeans became NewJeans, they trained under they were training under Source Music. And so and I guess the concept was that they developed the group first before Min Hee Jin or ADOR took over. Okay. So that was the whole concept. Okay. I looked it up and I was like, okay, well, Source Music is a subsidiary of HYBE. Okay. And so I looked it up, and the Source Music is also the managing or the agency for Les Seraphim. Okay. So what happens with contracts? Let's talk about contracts. First of all, let's talk about Min Hee Jin's contract with HYBE. So when the young ladies were trainees, okay, HYBE placed the task on Min Hee Jin to manage them through the agency ADOR. HYBE paid ADOR or Min Hee Jin X amount of billions of wons to develop the girl group. The contract was signed with Min Hee Jin ADOR with HYBE in order to pay the advancement to manage the girl group. Whatever agreement that was in the contract, right? Outside of the fact that they have to also pay normally the way this contracts work, they advance them the money, they have to pay them X amount of percentage of any profits or anything that comes in under NewJeans, right? So that's kind of how it was. And plus, I guess maybe they had to pay back the investment, technically. I mean, I don't understand performance contracts, but that's what it is. So that contract was between ADOR and HYBE, okay? Min Hee Jin took on the contract between ADOR and NewJeans, the 5 young ladies, to develop NewJeans. So it's like a performance contract. So NewJeans signed the contract with ADOR, okay? So any issues or anything that was derived during the time that NewJeans, those 5 young ladies had any issues, it would have gone through ADOR, which would have been Min Hee Jin, because she's the CEO of the ADOR at the time. So I've read a lot of things, I saw a lot of things, and the way I read was basically Min Hee Jin was about ready to really, I would say this, Min Hee Jin did not handle the situation well. For somebody to be CEO of this type of conglomerate business, she did not handle the situation well. Way I interpret what was going on, Min Hee Jin was about ready to get caught, basically with her hand in the cookie jar, right? She was about ready to get caught, and she knew her time was about ready to come up. So what she did, this is my opinion, everybody may have their own story to tell. This has been what I've been witnessing myself, as I've been reading through everybody's point of view. Jean's side, NewJeans side, HYBE side. But I've just been reading what I've been looking at. So one of the points that NewJeans were saying was that a plagiarizing of Excl. And at the same time, HYBE was auditing ADOR. And for anywhere this money's, what she's been doing. So she kind of conjured up this whole plagiarism thing, saying that she's being targeted because she was about ready to blow the whistle about this whole plagiarism on another girl group. The issue I said I have was with Min Hee Jin here. She is grown. She's a grown woman. She was in charge of billion won company, but instead she's using petty tactics to cover her own butt. Yes, that was petty. She used that as a weapon in order to tug on the 5 young ladies of NewJeans' heartstrings. And then that's when, of course, April of last year, 2024, she did this whole campaign about how she was being mistreated, how she was being unrecognizably being targeted, crying, and saying how she was on the phone, crying on the phone, talking to the girls. They're on the phone crying. And so the whole thing is, you're a grown woman. Handle your business. Do not drag other people into your business. So now NewJeans is feeling like they are being mistreated, that they are not being heard. We have fan wars going on, saying it's all HYBE's fault. They should be able to go and do what they need to do because HYBE bad boy. HYBE is bad. So NewJeans probably didn't even know what was going on until when Min Hee Jin was telling them that something was wrong. So now this big old salacialized thing, and when you go to the court case, the last court case where the validation came in place, the judge basically stated all this problems is because of Min Hee Jin. And then if you look at so everybody was looking at the dispatch probably was trying to save themselves, and they did 10 points of what was going through, what was the issues for each point. And out of the 10, maybe 2 or 3 of the points had something to actually deal with the contract between NewJeans and ADOR. Any other points was basically things that were dealing with HYBE. And at that time, anything that was issues with HYBE would have been handled by ADOR, which would have been Min Hee Jin. She should have handled her business. But yet she's the one who is the whole corporate in this whole thing. She grown. Okay. One of the things about protecting your artists and protecting, I look at this. It's like parents going to divorce and pulling the children to try to put them onto your side and saying daddy was bad, daddy was mean. That's how Min Hee Jin handled this. She handled it as a scorned woman who's about ready to lose it all and try to put the children on her side. One of the things I say, this is just my opinion, if you don't want to hear it, in order to protect the artists as a CEO of a company, you don't draw them into the business part of the whole thing. And that's kind of what she did. She wanted to use these girls as weaponizing against HYBE. Instead of encouraging the girls, you know what? This is this business aspect we're going through right now. You go ahead and do what you need to do. Let me handle this business right now before anything happens. And we know, after all this said and done, Min Hee Jin actually won the case against HYBE, right? I believe, at that point. But of course, HYBE, I think, appealed it. I'm assuming, I can't remember. It's been a few months ago when this happened. And so now, what's the point now? Where are we now? Right? Min Hee Jin is just opened up a whole new agency. Now, I thought she had no compete, but apparently she didn't. She opened up a whole new agency. NewJeans just lost their validation case. They're not even performing. Now Min Hee Jin is out here opening up a new agency, and now she just can't have an agency not open, and whoever invested in her agency. So she has to bring in other people. And at this point, NewJeans is not one of them because they have to still deal with this whole validation contract. And so now they're not here performing. A lot of the other artists is Illit, the Seraphim just released a comeback. You know, everybody else is doing their job, that they're doing what they're supposed to do, not job, but performing music. While NewJeans is here trying to, the grown people around them are not really directing them properly. Whoever was talking to their ear, they were just not, it's not directing them properly. The parents, the lawyers. Let's talk about the contract, which nobody actually made a point. Everybody was saying how it was like other K-pop artists wanting to leave their contracts, going to court, wanting to leave their contracts. NewJeans did not file to disband their contract. This whole court case was basically to say that their contract was valid. So when you're saying that it's the same as the other K-pop artists. No, technically, it's the same concept of wanting to terminate their contract. However, it's not the same because what it is, NewJeans is actually the defendant, not the plaintiff. They're defending their rights to terminate the contract based on what they stated, why they feel like it shouldn't. And these were the points they stated, why they feel like they shouldn't have to have a hold to, they just wanted to walk away from the contract. The plaintiff is ADOR, who is saying that the contract is valid. So they're saying that this contract is valid. So they're trying to say, yes, you have to stick with us because your contract is valid. That's what it really is. It's not about why they should leave, why they should terminate. No, it's about why they stated this contract is valid. So if they wanted to terminate the contract, they would have to become the plaintiff and go to court to terminate and use these points to say why they should terminate their contract. This was not what this case was about. This was a case that ADOR was trying to say is that this contract was valid, that they just can't walk away. So these lawyers they have to switch it. All the other K-pop artists who were trying to terminate their contract, they were the plaintiff trying to terminate their contract. And the agencies was trying to defend it, why they should keep it. So that's the difference. It's the same concept that's what they're going through. Because they can empathize with other K-pop artists, but however, the case is different. So that's a concept that I don't think anybody really even realizes. NewJeans was not the plaintiff. They weren't trying to terminate their contract. They were just justifying why they should leave to the courts. That's defending why they should leave and why their contract was not valid. That's what they were doing. K-pop is a $1 trillion business, $1 billion business. $billions business, right? Everybody has a basically a performance contract. And HYBE was the money man behind ADOR. Min Hee Jin saw all this money coming in, and seeing that she had to give most of it to HYBE, she was like, "Well, wait a minute." So then she started to tap the tail a little bit, trying to find a way where she can pull NewJeans away from, or divest away, not NewJeans, but divest ADOR away from HYBE and get all the money herself. NewJeans was not even arguing about money. And most of these other cases, K-pop artists were basically saying overworked and underpaid. Okay? When you are on a performance contract, there's no employment. You're on a performance contract. They signed a contract stating that you as a group would perform as NewJeans. And we will give you X amount of dollars per member per year as you perform under NewJeans. You will do any promotionals, any concerts, any music, whatever the contract was. Employment contracts is basically stating you agreed to come to work the 40 hours. If your salary, you worked your salary contract, you would do this job, this job, this job. If you do not do this job, this job, this job, then you're fired. Or if you, as an employment contract, you just can't say, I don't perform. You can't say, the management changed and now you want to leave. Employment contract, employment. Give them 2 weeks notice and say, I'm out of here. Now that's what we have here in the States. We have 2 weeks notice. So that's one of the things. So that's the reason why employment contracts are different than performance contract. Than performance, you can't do that, unfortunately. So basically, only thing that NewJeans was doing was stating why they feel like the contract was not valid. They were not trying to terminate their contract. They were saying that they can walk away from it without having to do a termination, and writing it on a piece of paper with your sign and said, this from November 29th and on, we are terminating our contract. That's not how it works, unfortunately. Everybody say they should be able to perform whenever they want. Yes, they can. But unfortunately, when it comes to contracts, you at least have to govern yourself according to the contract. Now, if NewJeans wanted to perform, they would have to literally do it for free. As long as they're not making money. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not legal to state that. And if they do it and get caught, okay, well, but that's my thought, that's my concept. One thing I just really don't like about what's going on is just basically how people are getting attacked online. Fandoms are getting attacked on other fandoms. Being misled. I hope these young ladies be able to achieve their goal of how it started in the beginning. Just be able to perform and just have a good time and doing what they were doing. That is what I really do believe, and I hope they were able to do it. I don't think they don't want to go back to ADOR. I don't blame them. After all this is going on, technically, I don't think they should even go back to Min Hee Jin. And but the thing is, ADOR can just continue on and develop a whole nother group while they're still trying to fight this stuff in court, the validation of their contract. Min Hee Jin already moved on, and these girls right now, the only option to them right now for the next year or so, if depending, an appellate court technically does not necessarily have to listen to any arguments, because it's not they basically stated was this contract was valid. They cannot just walk away. And so the appellate court doesn't really have to listen to any arguments technically. But yes, the appellate court can take other situations and right? They can. Other things, like they can't be moved by emotions and tears and sympathy. But sometimes the appellate court can use that to say maybe. But they can state that they can terminate the contract, but however, the terms of the termination will still probably be up to ADOR. They just can't walk away from a contract, unfortunately. Contracts are performance contracts, even here in the States. They're not a great contract. We had New Edition, we had TLC, and and all the burden of everything was on the artist. And so when they come at the end of the day, they may only be coming bringing home all that stuff they did. TLC broke it down. All that stuff they did, they were only bringing home $50,000 because whatever is left, it has to be split 3 ways. So if you're talking about a K-pop group with 11 members, and whatever is left, it has to be split 11 ways. Even though the agencies may pay for everything else, but you still want a little extra money in your pocket, be able to do stuff like you want to do without having to go through the agency. So with the girls, right? They maybe get a percentage of, they have to pay back everything that they did, clothing, makeup, videos, um, music. Now, I don't know how that contract is, maybe not. But let's say that's the case. So whatever that was brought in, they got to pay all those people that, and then whatever's left, they have to pay HYBE, and again whatever's left, they have to split. Let's say 5 billion wons was left after all this expenses was done. So now they have to split that 5 billion wons between the 5 girls, and even Min Hee Jin, ADOR, has to get a percentage of that too. And so basically these contracts are not always for the artists. They never would. Even here in the States, these contracts are never for the artists. It's always for the agencies or the record label. Thank you for watching. Media adjourned.